temple. Who else is happy to be here? Who else is happy to be here this Sabbath? And as Christians, we come here every week. We have like a commitment to keep the Sabbath holy, right? But one of the things that gets my attention, especially with the youth, is that there's statistics that say that at some point in their lives, at some age, the youth always leave the church. The youth always, they leave for some reason, right? And so we're kind of like trying to figure out why that happens. Why is there this tendency for the youth to leave the church? And to answer that question, you kind of have to investigate, why do you come to church in the first place? Because if you don't know why you come to church in the first place, then why would you stay here? Right? You don't have an answer for that either. Because we come as children because our parents guide us. We know that. Our parents bring us here. But once we go to college, and this happens a lot with that, once you go to college, you come across new friends, you come across new belief system, you come across new habits with your friends, and you kind of fall into that same pattern. And if you're not established, if you don't have a reason why to come here, if you don't have a reason why to have your own relationship with God, then you're not going to have a reason. You're just not going to do it. You're going to forget about it. Even if you're not intending to do it. Even if you think that coming to church is good. Your habits will just be like, one day you'll just be like, oh, you know what? I think today I won't go to church. I have too much homework. And then the next week you'll be like, you know what? I think I'd rather go with my friends this time. So if you don't have a reason to have your own relationship with God, if you haven't established that, then there's a pretty big chance that you'll leave later. So that's one of the questions that we need to answer, right? So if you remember last time I was here, we talked about having a relationship with God, having a direct relationship with God. You are the priest. You are responsible for your relationship with God. Okay? And today I want to answer the question. I want to address the question: why are you here in the first place? Why do people come here? Why do people have a religion? Why do people come towards a religion? Why do people believe in Christianity? And this is the question you need to answer. This is the answer you need to establish with yourself. Because if you haven't established this for yourself, then you won't have a reason to stay in church. So, I want you to do this. Think of why you decide to follow God. If you have this, you guys are young. I don't know if you've made this decision for yourself, but if you have, think of why you have decided to follow God. If you haven't made this decision, think of why someone would decide to follow God. What is life for? Think about this. What is life for in the first place? There's people that think, I have a friend, he believes in God, he's Christian, but I call him a hedonist. And it's different from a heathen, that's a different word. A hedonist is a philosophical term, right? Hedonist is H-E-D, you'll learn this in college, H-E-D-O-N. Okay? H-E-D-O-N-I-S-T. And that is somebody who lives for pleasure, right? Because his habits reflect it. And there's people like this. There's people that think that life, if you ask them what is life for, they'll say, oh, well, life is to be happy. Just be happy. Just, the thing that clicks in my mind right now is some lyrics in the Spanish songs. Oh, la vida es para gozarse, right? And so you got to move your body because you got to be happy, right? And so there's people that think like this. Whatever you do in life, just make sure you're happy. Whatever makes you happy is fine. That's what life is for. Life is to do what you want. There's people that live by that philosophy. There's people that don't have that. They have a different philosophy. In philosophy class, you'll learn this. You'll learn altruism, right? There's people that believe in altruism. That means that life is to do good things. Life is to do good things for others, to live for others. That's a little better. That's a little bit more noble, right? That reflects more the values of Christianity. Life is to do good things. So it's not for you to be happy, it's for you to make others happy. And people have different philosophies of life, different ways, different reasons of why they should follow in the steps of others, of their lifestyle, right? That's their philosophy. But the thing is this, that when the end comes, when death comes, if all you have is that philosophy, when the end comes, none of what you've done in life will matter. Whether you used life to please yourself, that won't matter. Whether you use life to help others, that won't matter. Because the end comes and it just annihilates everything. Okay? And for that, if you brought your Bibles, please turn with me to Ecclesiastes. If you brought your Bibles or on your cell phone, look it up, Ecclesiastes chapter 1, because we're going to be reading through this. We're going to be reading through this so you guys can get a sense of what I'm talking about. Look it up on your phone. It's Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. That's E-C-C-L-E-S. And it'll probably pop up right there. If you have your own Bible, you can turn to it. All right, Ecclesiastes chapter 1. I'll start reading. The words, you guys can follow along, okay? The words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem. If you guys don't know the thing behind Ecclesiastes, it's purported to be written by Solomon. You guys know who Solomon is? He's the wisest. The Bible says that there was nobody wiser than him before, and nobody after him will be born that's wiser than him. So he's like the wisest person. He wrote a lot of proverbs are attributed to him, and so he's the book of Ecclesiastes, the wisest king of Israel, is said to be written by him. So, vanity of vanities, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor, in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes. But the earth abides forever and forever. The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south, and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually. So he's describing here all the cycles of life, all the cycles of the world, right? And comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Okay, so here Solomon is describing the cycles of the world and how everything is just tirelessly working, doing the same thing over and over again. Same thing over and over again. What happens to your life? What happens in your life? What happens to you when you witness the same thing being done over and over again? When your life is just, I don't know, you wake up, you go to school, you get out of school, you eat, and you go to sleep. You wake up, you go to school, you eat, and you go to sleep. What happens with that cycle? You get bored. You get bored, right? You get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. If you're young, you will eventually get bored. Sorry to disappoint you. If you're young and you think your life is exciting, if you're young and you think you're excited about driving, about getting your driver's license, I've been driving. I got my driver's license later. I got it when I was 23. You get bored of driving, all right? If you're young and you think you're excited to become a doctor, doctors get bored. If you're young and you think you're excited about, I don't know, like singing in front of people, you will get bored of that. Okay, so he's just describing everything. Because Solomon had everything. You have to understand that Solomon was the king of Israel, and he was the king at the peak of Israel. He was the king when Israel was at his highest, in his best times. He had all the world, he had all the gold, he had all the riches, he had everything done. He could do whatever he wanted. And he gets bored. That's why he's describing it this way. Okay? One does all the cycles of life. And then he says, why? For what? You know, the sun comes up and it goes down, and then it's the next day, and the rivers flow, and people work, but for what? What is all this for? Why do we do this? Verse 9. That which has been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun. So you can see, you can feel this boredom that he's developed. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything that happens has already happened, and everything that will happen has already happened. And everything that has happened, it will happen again. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before us. Even if something new did in fact happen, guess what? It will happen again. And when it happens again, it's going to be something new, something that has already happened. Verse 11. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of the things that are to come by those who will come out. Nobody remembers the things of the past, and the things that will happen, eventually everybody will forget. Once time passes by, once the people that were there have already died off. So we have this, right? It doesn't matter what you do, it will all count for nothing. It will all be forgotten. It doesn't matter how famous you are, it will all be forgotten. So we continue. It doesn't matter what kind of impact you have on life, whatever your plans are for life, it doesn't matter what kind of impact you have on life. It will all be destroyed with the world. Once everybody dies off, once time passes by, and everything gets destroyed. Now, and I'll talk more about that. Verse 12. I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven. This was a burdensome task God has given to the sons of men, by which they may be exercised. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed all is vanity and grasping for the wind. Verse 14, it says that he did everything, all ambition. He analyzed everything, and he realized that everything is useless. Everything is vanity. Everything is for nothing. Like, it doesn't have any meaning. There's no meaning to it. 15, what is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be numbered. I communed with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness, and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge. So he tried to pride himself, like, wow, look, I'm the king. I'm the greatest, and I've attained so much wisdom. That's good, right? That's really good. That's impactful. Is it? 17, and I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also grasping for the wind. And he says, no, that's also useless. But it's interesting here how he says, I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. So he didn't just go the high route and say, you know what, I'm gonna get my higher education, I'm gonna get my degrees, I'm gonna be the smartest person in the world. If you think that's useless, and you're like, you know what, if you think that's useless already, you say, you know what, my life, I'm gonna enjoy my life, I'm just gonna party all the time. He said he even did that. He sought madness and folly. He went both ways. He was the wisest person and the most foolish person. He was the most ready person and the most wasteful person. He lived both lives. He lived both sides. And what does he say? That's useless, and this is useless. Why? Verse 18. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Right now he's getting kind of depressed, right? Because there's this idea that the wiser you are, the smarter you are, the more depressed you become. Because not only do you learn more, but you learn how much you don't know. And that's kind of daunting. And that there's not enough time in life. There's not enough time in the universe to actually achieve learning all this greatness, learning all this wisdom. So Solomon tried this lifestyle. Solomon tried this lifestyle of just being wasteful and just enjoying life and just being happy. He was the king. He had access to everything. He was the most famous king. He had all types of pleasure. He had pleasures of the flesh, as you will read, of wasting his life, and he had pleasures of productivity as well. He was productive too. If you think, oh, you know what? I'm not that type. I don't party. My life is going to have meaning because I'm going to build buildings, and I'm going to build societies, and I'm going to help people, and I'm going to make the world a better place, and that's why my life is not going to be meaningless. That's why my life is going to have meaning. Solomon did that, and what did he say? So Solomon had pleasures of the flesh. He had pleasures of productivity, of helping others, of constructing. He had pleasures of virtue. He's so famous that even today, centuries after his death, millennia after his death, we still say his name, we still tell his story. That's how famous he is. That's how much of an impact he had. And what does he say? He marked his spot in history. So he had pleasures of the flesh, pleasures of productivity, pleasures of virtue. Think of all the dreams that you've had. Think of your aspirations. What do you want to do when you grow up? Chapter 2. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, but surely this was also vanity. So that's when he's enjoying the pleasures of the flesh. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to give you whatever you want. He said that to himself. Verse 2. I said of laughter, madness, and of mirth. What does it accomplish? What does it accomplish? Verse 3. I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. He was trying to figure this out. He was trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do to be fulfilled? Is it doing whatever I want and living in pleasure, or is it doing what everybody else wants and helping everybody? What are men supposed to do to be happy, to be fulfilled in life? What can we do? He asked himself this question, and he tried to answer it. Verse 4. I made my works great. I built myself houses and planted myself vineyards. So in the past, when you build yourself a house, that's a big thing. When you build yourself a vineyard, that's like passive income. Because you pretend that you work and it grows and you get rich off of it. So he was self-sustaining. He had nothing else to do. I made myself gardens, orchards, and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. He had his own business going. He had his own business, and he could take care of himself and his family. I'm saying it like this so you guys can reflect on what you guys want to do for you. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. Imagine you're so successful in business that you have passive income. You can retire, and you don't have to work a day. You don't have to work a day more in your life. Because everything, is that your dream? Is that what you're trying to achieve? 7. I acquired male and female servants, and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers. So beyond having everything that you need, now it's everything that you want. You don't just have passive income. You don't just have your houses, your mansions. Now you have entertainment. Anybody that wants to sing for you, anything that you want to see, people will do it for you. You hire somebody to sing for you. You hire somebody to play out, to act out a movie right in front of you. You have your own theater stage. You can do whatever you want. That's what he had. He had all that. Verse 8. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of sons of man, and musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Verse 10, whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from him. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure. Whatever he wanted, he got it. And this was my reward from all my labor. Then, verse 11, and here's where we get the kicker. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled, and indeed all was vanity. He didn't feel proud of himself. He felt that emptiness. Why? What is this for? What have I accomplished? Indeed, all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. And I tell you guys this because one of the things that I've heard a lot about people that are successful, people that work 9-to-5 jobs and build up their retirement, people that get an education, they work 9-to-5 jobs. What are you trying to achieve in life? And they go through a retirement. And then at the end of everything, there's a lot of people that say, I feel like I've been duped. I feel like I was sold into the system. I feel like I have been tricked. I feel like I sell out. Like I don't know why I thought this was gonna make me happy. They get to the end of their life and they just go through that crisis. Where they don't feel fulfilled. They don't feel like they did everything that they wanted to do, but they don't feel like they achieved anything. And they say, for what? Why am I here? And they feel like they were tricked into doing something that they didn't really want to do. Why? Because they just went through the patterns of life. And they feel like they wasted their life. Even King Solomon went through that with all that he had achieved. And it's not because you didn't chase your dreams. He said he did that too. And he still felt like that. We need to figure out why this happens. Because whatever you do in life, you're going to feel like you didn't do anything. You're going to feel useless at the end. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly. So he saw, yes, wisdom is better than folly. Yes. As light excels darkness. Wisdom is better. Knowledge, to get educated and to be knowledgeable about things is better. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I perceived, even though wisdom is better than folly, yes. He says, yet I perceive that the same event happens to them all. The same event happens to them all. What is he talking about? He says that, yes, the smarter person may have it better in life, but the same thing happens to all. What is this? Do you guys know? Can you guys get a hint of this? If you read ahead, you'll know. What is this? What is something that is called, maybe you guys are too young for this. Maybe you've heard it in school, if you paid attention. The great equalizer in life. The thing that everybody goes through. Doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, it's the thing that makes you realize, you know what? It doesn't matter what you did, we're all the same. You guys know? Death. Thank you. Verse 15, so I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this is also vanity. For there is no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever. Since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? How does a wise man die? Just like the fool. Imagine all the dreams that you have. All that you wish that you could accomplish in your life. Think of all these things. Whether they be noble things, if you have dreams to help people out, to heal people, if you have dreams to just satisfy yourself, to be famous, to be liked, to be popular, to be liked by a lot of people, to be rich, so you can use that money to get whatever you want, to get all the cars you want, or you want to be rich to help out the world, to try and end world. What kind of dreams do you have? What kind of ambitions do you have? Have a good job? Do you want to have a good future? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to travel the world? Or do you want to travel the world? Do you want to help other people travel the world? Do you want to party the rest of your life? Do you want to be rich? Do you want to be a superhero? Solomon did all of that. He did all of that. He educated himself. And imagine that when you accomplish your dreams, imagine that when you accomplish your ambitions, your desires, that thing you want to do when you grow up, you realize it's nothing. You realize you still feel empty inside. You realize it's all vanity. It's like chasing the wind. You think you're going to catch something, and it just turns out to be the same as what's already in your hand. You think you're going to feel better, but you just feel the same as when you started. Chasing the wind. And he makes the comparison between the wise and the foolish, but he says that they both end up the same way. Death is the inevitable fate. Death comes to all. The end. Death comes in many forms. Death represents the end of something. Destruction. When you build something, it gets destroyed. And that's guaranteed. Whatever you do in life, it's going to be for nothing. It's going to get destroyed. You guys know that. Even as Adventists, we know that whatever we build here on earth, it's going to be destroyed. Whatever we do here is going to be destroyed. It's going to be for nothing. Life has no meaning with that in its presence. This is when you say, if everything's going to be destroyed, why do I even do anything? Why do I even bother? That's what this means. Life has no meaning with death in the image. If the end is in the image, if death exists, then why do we do anything? There's no reason to do anything. That's what it means. Death is a reality that no one can deny. Okay? And death is not something that just Christians believe. Death is not something that just Adventists believe. Death is, the whole world believes it. Even if you're atheist, even if you're not Christian, even if you're not religious, even if you don't believe in God, death is still real. You can't escape it. You don't need to know God to be acquainted with death. You don't need to be religious to be acquainted with death. Everything is going to end, and nothing is going to matter when that happens. If you're actually realistic, whether you believe in God or not, because some people say that us theists, us Christians that believe in God, we say that we're fooling ourselves, that we're not realistic. But if you're realistic, if you're actually realistic, life does not have any meaning. This earth does not have any meaning. Death, it's a scientific reality. The death of the universe is a scientific reality. The end of the universe is a scientific reality. If you guys have heard of, if you guys pay attention in physics class, you will hear. Is anybody familiar with what entropy is? Entropy physics class? I think it's the first law of thermodynamics. And entropy is the law that everything in the universe, all of matter, wastes away with time. It wastes away into chaos. Everything gets more and more disorganized, everything in the universe. That's scientific, that's physics. That's the natural process. That's natural. Imagine your whole life and everything in it. Everything that you live in life, everything that you live for. Everything gets destroyed. That's entropy. Slowly, the universe is getting destroyed. The job that you have, getting destroyed. The studies that you're doing, are getting destroyed. The thing that you major in is getting destroyed. Your efforts, what you work for in life, that gets destroyed. Your family, the things that you care about, your family, your friends, that gets destroyed. Your fame, everything's getting destroyed with this universal principle of entropy. And this is not, let me remind you, this is not some fanatic religious belief. This is truth. This is fact. This is the natural process that's acknowledged by the scientific community. Even if you're not Christian, you know this. Time. Entropy is such an essential part of physics that time is measured by how much we waste away. In mathematics, in Matthew, you come into, when you study mathematics, you come into this weird phenomena that you don't, time cannot really be measured, right? Because you don't know what's back in time or you don't know what's future in time. Mathematically, you don't know why time flows forward instead of backward. But the only thing that they can explain is through entropy. Time is measured by how much we waste away. And that's how you know how time is going forward instead of backward. Because the more we waste away, that means that time is going forward. That means that time is going into one direction instead of another. That's how you know that time goes from past into future, by how much we waste away, by how much the universe wastes away. And with this in mind, with entropy in mind, with this great principle surrounding the universe, with death in the picture, nothing makes sense. Nothing has meaning. Why would you do anything? Would you do it because it feels good? Even your good feelings are destroyed. Would you do it because it is good? Because you achieved something good? All that stuff gets destroyed. You cannot conquer death. You cannot defeat death. We live in a universe that has fallen into sin, and the wages of sin is death. That's why we, as sinful creatures, cannot defeat death. We cannot escape death. We cannot escape this destruction of the universe. It doesn't matter how many good works we do, we cannot escape death. So I want you to do this. I want you to close your eyes, don't fall asleep. But imagine this. Imagine everything in your life. Imagine all the good things in your life. Everything that you enjoy. And everything that you want to enjoy. Imagine all this. Everything that you would like to enjoy in the future. When you get older. Imagine all of that gets destroyed. And when all of that gets destroyed, what does it get destroyed by? Maybe an asteroid, maybe there's, When you picture all of that getting destroyed, what else do you have? Do you have anything else? Do you have anything left? Look for it. What else do you have in your life that might be good after everything gets destroyed? Do you have anything else? If you did find something else, imagine that getting destroyed. Is there anything left? Is the ground left? Maybe you're still sitting on the ground. Maybe you can still see a little bit of light in the sky. Maybe you see a plant coming up from the ashes. Imagine that getting destroyed. Imagine that little bit of light getting destroyed. Imagine the ground getting destroyed. Do you see anything else? Is there anything else? Imagine your eyesight, your body. Are you still alive? If you're still alive, if you still have limbs, if you still have perception, imagine that getting destroyed. This comes to mind This all comes to mind. You guys can wake up now. But there's the church, right? There's the church that's left. Imagine that getting destroyed. Your beliefs about God, that gets destroyed. Your dreams, your aspiration, that gets destroyed. Now that everything is destroyed, what is there left? And if there's anything left, even that gets destroyed. And now that you're in total darkness, is there anything left? Is there something outside of life? Is there something outside of the universe that can survive this death? Is there something outside of the universe that can survive this death? That can survive this death principle? That can survive this entropy? And that's why we come here. That's why we come to church. Because we are looking for an answer. Because we want an answer to this. Because we know that everything ends. Because we acknowledge that everything ends. And we want something. We want an answer for this. We want meaning. We want an answer, and we want to live that answer. And we are committed to face that reality, to find salvation, to find a solution to this. And we came here to face that. We're not just going to ignore death. Death is a reality. You can't ignore it. If you ignore it, it won't go away by ignoring it. If you ignore it, it'll eventually come to you. You'll face it. We come here to church because we are concerned with something that's eternally important. The whole world has to face this, regardless of who you are. Something that's eternally important. What will happen to us? That's what's eternally important. What's going to happen to us? The most important thing in the world, life. The most important thing in life, the most important thing in existence. If there is anything that survives this darkness, that survives this entropy, this eternal law of death, if there's anything that survives it, it is something with an eternal nature. Only something eternal can survive this death of the universe. And if something has an eternal nature, that's God. That's definitely God. Only something eternal can survive. Only God can survive. And that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that can survive. So that's the only thing. If there's anything that matters in life, Solomon just said that everything wastes away, everything dies, so nothing matters, right? If something survives that, then that matters. That's the only thing that matters. If there is nothing outside of this law of entropy, if there's nothing outside of the universe, then it doesn't matter. But if something matters, it's that. If something matters in this universe, is that whichever escapes the law of death. That's the only thing that matters. Now, this is important because death is something that you can't ignore. We face it because it can't be ignored. It comes inevitably. It comes to absolutely everyone in the world. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe in death or not, it's going to come to you. There's people that deny God. You know, there's people that say that you can't prove God. But God's going to come. There's people that deny death, and that maybe even an atheist can deny that death exists. But guess what? It's going to come to them anyway, whether you believe it or not. Reality hits you. Reality is reality. And whether you believe in what's real or not, it's going to come to you. So again, I say, this is not something that's religious or biased. This is nature. Even atheists can't deny this. Something that is real, something that can't be argued against. This is undebatable. Death exists. It's undebatable. Nobody can tell you otherwise. Everything has an end. That's undebatable. Nobody can argue with you against that. Your work, your job has an end. Your career has an end. Your family has an end. Your security in life has an end. Think about this, in some actual point in your life, think about everything that you go through. There's going to be some actual point in your life in which you actually face this death. Come face to face with this death. That point is going to come. And it's not something that you can wish away. It's not imaginary. At some point in your life, you're going to face this end. And whatever it is, whether you adhere to our beliefs or not, whether it feels like, whether you go to heaven or whether you go to hell, or whether it feels like nothing, it's going to be what it is, but it's going to happen. And it's going to be so much different. It's going to be so different than the life that you experience right now. That's for sure. Even if you're an atheist, you can agree with this. Death, when it comes, is going to be way different than whatever you're experiencing right now. But the thing is that it's a forced decision. So, are you getting ready to face that? Because it's a forced decision. And if you don't know what a forced decision is, let me explain it to you this way. A professor, one of my professors in La Sierra University, he mentioned it this way. Imagine you're in an airplane, right? You're in an airplane and the airplane is crashing. You're alone in that airplane. You could either try and land the plane, or you could, make a parachute. You find a parachute, you don't know if it works. You've never used a parachute before, you don't know if it works. You could try and land the plane, or you could try and use a parachute. Which one are you going to do? You don't know either, right? You can't just say, well, I don't know how to land the plane, and I'm not sure about this parachute, I just won't make a decision. Can you do that? It's a forced decision. You got to make a decision. And if you don't make a decision, that's still a decision that's going to affect you. The plane is not going to stop from falling just because you decide not to make a decision. Death is not going to be like, oh, you haven't made your decision? Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll wait. Oh, you haven't made a decision? It's okay, don't worry, I won't bother you. No, it's going to come whether you like it or not. Judgment is going to come whether you like it or not. Whether you go to heaven or whether you go to hell, you're forced to make a decision. You're already here, you're already alive, you're already in this great controversy. You're already part of it. It's a forced decision. The plane is going to crash whether you like it. The plane is going to keep falling whether you like it or not. You have to make a decision. Reality hits you whether you're ready for it or not. And you're going to live to face that reality, regardless of what the truth is. Whether you go to heaven or whether you go to hell, or whether you just stop existing, you're going to face it. And you can't say, oh no, count me out. No, I'm not going to partake in that. You can't say, you know what, I'm not part of this plane. You know, I don't want to take it. I don't want to deal with it. Regardless of what death might be, outside of religious interpretation, outside of religious beliefs, we can all agree. Your atheist friends will agree. Death is something that is completely and utterly different from life. You may not know what death is, but you cannot deny that death is something completely different than anything you have ever experienced in life, than anything you have ever experienced in life. So the question is this, and I want you to ask yourself this question. Are you ready for when that time comes? Are you ready? Because the time is coming whether you like it or not. Are you ready for it? And what are you doing right now with your life to be ready for it? What are you doing right now? What are you doing with your time here? What are you doing with your time here? What are you doing to prepare? Are you preparing, or are you just like not? Are you just pretending not that it doesn't exist? Are you ready for whatever comes? Are you ready for death? Are you investigating it? Are you researching it? Are you trying to get ready for whatever that is? Or do you think that just by ignoring it, that it will go away? You know, there's people that tell me, why do you focus on death so much? Don't be so negative. Stop thinking about death. But it's a reality. You can't ignore it. It's a reality. Life is not going to be better by ignoring it. You're not going to stop dying by ignoring it. It's inevitable. It's inevitable, and you are going to be responsible with what you do. Even if you ignore it, what's real is real. You are going to die. You are going to come to this judgment. If you don't reach death, if Jesus comes back before that, you are going to reach this judgment. And when you do, the world that you see will be no less stranger than utter darkness. Now, I talked about how everything is vanity. I talked about how death makes everything insignificant, how death takes away the meaning from it. And it's in moments like this, because there was moments where I myself was doubting God's existence. I didn't know if God existed. But this is the metaphor that I use. I felt like I was stranded in an ocean. Imagine you're stranded in an ocean. Maybe the Titanic just sank. You're the only one that's still above the water. And there's nothing but blackness around you. It's just utter darkness around you. Do you go this way? Doesn't matter. Do you go this way? Do you go that way? You don't know where to go. Do you go down? Well, I don't know. Will it make a difference? Probably not. You go up? You try. But that's what I felt like when I was doubting God's existence. What can you do to save yourself? Can you do anything to save yourself when you're in that situation? You find a fish? Can you swim that way? Can you go to the fridge and get a soda? Will that make it better? Can you, I don't know. Okay, can you swim left? Maybe you want to swim right, and you want to be a teacher. Swim right and be a teacher. Will that make it better? Maybe you want to swim left and make a lot of money. Maybe you want to swim down and, I don't know, stay in your room and, just mope. Maybe you want to swim up and get a higher education. You get this? You understand the metaphor here? Life is like this. Life is meaningless. What do you want to do? Which way do you want to swim? Which way do you want to go? It doesn't matter. You're still stuck in the middle of the ocean. You're still stuck in the middle of darkness. It doesn't really matter. You can't really survive. And when I was doubting God's existence, that's nothing mattered. But imagine that you're in that situation. And in the distance, you see like a little glimmer of light. It's so far away and it's so faint that you don't even know if maybe it's just your imagination. It's probably not real. It's probably just your imagination. Maybe it's not real. If you see that little thing, and if you think it's your imagination, are you going to say, you know what, it's just my imagination, I'm not even going to try? Are you going to do that? Are you going to do that? No, you're going to swim towards it. It's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that maybe it's not real, but you're going to try and get there anyway. If there's anything in life that matters, it's that. Maybe nothing in life matters. Maybe God is not real. But if God is real, you can assume towards that. If there's something eternal, if there's something that can escape death, go for that. That's the only thing that matters. Maybe everything is darkness. Maybe that light is just your imagination. But if it's not your imagination, that's the only thing that matters. Here we have, let's go to Matthew. Let's go to Matthew 24. Matthew 24:35. And this is a common verse that you guys probably all know. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. These are the words of Jesus, right? And he's describing the situation. He's describing entropy. Heaven and earth will pass away. Everything gets destroyed. Everything falls under death. Everything falls under the law of entropy. But my words will not pass away. That's the answer to Ecclesiastes. That's the answer to vanity. When all is vain, when everything is defeated, that is the answer. This is the answer right here. And it's something that you can't ignore. Who here is committed not to ignore reality? Who here is committed to face reality? If you forget reality, if you forget to be responsible, if you neglect what's important, it doesn't help you at all. So we have to be committed to face reality. This is reality. That is reality. Whether anybody, regardless of your culture, regardless of your religious beliefs, it happens to you. So this is the answer. We know that this is the answer. And we know that something is missing, something that is centrally important. God, right? God is missing in our lives. That's why we come here. And if that's missing, if God is missing in your life, it doesn't matter what you have. If this is missing, you will not be satisfied. It makes all your blessings a joke. If God is missing in your life, it doesn't matter how many blessings you have, it'll be a joke. Here, let me put it this way. Imagine you have all the money in the world, okay? I don't know, maybe some supervillain. Who's good supervillain? Imagine he has all the power to give you all the money in the world. Right? So you have all the money in the world. Okay? And then after you have all the money in the world, the whole world is destroyed. Is that good? Do you feel good about that? You can't do anything, right? All your blessings are a joke. That was a joke. You got all the money in the world, and guess what? You can't use it. Imagine you have your house. Here's another situation for, if you're a little bit more mature, and you can understand this. Imagine you have your house. Imagine you have your family. Imagine you have your friends. No. Imagine you have your house. Imagine you have the car that you want. Imagine you have the career that you want. And you get all this stuff, all these riches, but the price that you have to pay is that your whole family gets kidnapped. All the people that you care about gets kidnapped. I don't know, maybe, what's his name? Chopper. He gives you a lot of money, but in return, he kidnaps your family and your friends. Are you happy? That blessing is a joke. All that stuff that he gave you was a joke. You can't enjoy that. You can't enjoy that. Because something central is missing. Something very important is missing. It doesn't matter how much you have. If something is missing like that, you can't enjoy it. This is life. That's what you call vanity. Imagine your favorite dish, something simpler. Here's a simpler example. Imagine you have in front of you your favorite dish, a feast, whatever you want to eat. But at the same time, while you're eating it, you can't eat it unless there's like somebody sticking needles under your feet. Can you enjoy your food? Can't enjoy it. That's a joke. If you try to pretend that you're happy with all these things, that's what vanity is like. That's why we call this vanity. That's the whole thing about being vain, because there's people that are vain. There's people that are vain. Well, what that means is that they have all these riches and they're pretending like they're enjoying it, like they're on top of life, but we all know that that's useless. They're just ignorant. They're just ignoring the fact that they're not complete. That's what makes it vanity. If you decide to ignore the fact that your family and your friends are gone, and you're like, yay, I'm really loving this car, I'm really loving this house, all this gold. Yeah, I could have whatever I want. That's vanity. When you think that you have everything, but really something in your life is really missing, that's vanity. That's vain. That's useless. That's the whole thing about vanity. All the blessings, everything on earth cannot be enjoyed unless we fill ourselves with that principle, with that eternal principle. And that's what you also have to realize. This is also a joke, right? That the fact that we can enjoy everything, but in the end, nothing matters. If you don't have God in your life, if you don't have eternal principle, if everything gets destroyed in the end, and you're pretending, yay, I'm so happy with this, that's also vanity. That's why all of this is, you're in the same situation, where something deep is missing in your life. This time it's not your family, this is something even deeper, something even greater. This is the survival of the whole universe. That's missing in your life. You can't enjoy anything because you know. That's the position that Solomon found himself in. He knew that everything was going to end. He had everything, but he knew that everything was useless. He couldn't enjoy anything in life because he knew this. He didn't ignore it. He knew this. Maybe he tried to ignore it. People try to ignore it with alcohol. They try to forget their problems with alcohol. But guess what? That wears away. So all the blessings on earth cannot be enjoyed unless we fill ourselves with this eternal principle, unless we have something eternal, unless we have something to hold on to that survives the death of the universe. That is why we come here. If we face the reality of our impending destruction, we will recognize that all is vanity. The emptiness